So I've come back to this and it's dried up beautifully, and I'm really loving the marks that are in it very much. I love the thick purple and then the transparent purple and the teal and the sparkles and the magenta. I just love it all. Really, really love it all. Just got to turn it around the other way. Actually, that way around I'm seeing it as people's heads up here. So there's a little pointy-nosed, male-looking, possibly male, maybe not, face up here. And then this little, almost an alien face, as if they're looking at each other. And then a sort of shouty mouth there. And then another sort of face up here looking that way. And then another with a ponytail. And a sort of little rabbit's face up here. There's the arm, the body. I don't know if it interests you to look into your paintings and see if you can find figures or anything really, not just figures, but anything, just to see what you can see in there. Yeah, I'm seeing this as a sort of skeleton skulls, heads, faces, just down here. So I've been standing here looking at this for a little while now, and I have an urge to write on it again. I've brought a Uni Posca pen with me. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm sort of, oh look, there's a little bird down there as well pecking the ground. I feel like I'm fighting myself. I want to write on it and I'm fighting myself. So if I could just move through that fighting part and allow myself to do what I most want, which is to write on it. Yeah, that feels better. Okay. I'm not sure if you'll be able to read that. I've kind of written down the way, I am me. Don't question. It's very definite, isn't it? Don't question me. Wow. Feels like quite a young part of me, like a teenager part of me saying that. Finding my way. Don't question me. Yeah. Feels quite important, that statement. Yeah, definitely have a feeling of being maybe about 14. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. Sadness. Confusion. So as I wrote that, sadness and confusion, I had a sort of opposite feeling, because I'm remembering all the time at the stables and how confident I was. I was really super confident. I was quite good at horse riding. Confident. I took lessons. I taught adults how to ride. Yeah, I was really confident. I feel like this is the teenage me actually. That sort of little rabbit face with a ponytail. There's the neck, the chest, there's my shoulder and my arm, my body. I'm just letting her sort of come through for a moment and be really seen. I didn't really acknowledge myself. I don't know if anybody else did, so I probably wouldn't know how. Okay, I like that. I'm going to take a photo of that and I'm going to journal about it, and then I'm going to move on. No idea what I'm going to do next. So I invite you to go with your gut, do what feels right for you, just trust your gut. If you've got an impulse to write on yours, go for it and write on it. You may not. You might find outlines of people or events in your beginnings here. Take photos. Funnily enough, as I stand here, I'm right back and looking at my painting. And I'm seeing these sort of floppy books that haven't really got a very strong spine, apart from this one. It's pretty sturdy, and that one there's pretty sturdy, but it's balanced on top of this purpley one that's pretty bent, and this one's fairly sturdy, but this one here feels pretty sturdy. So yeah, I feel like I'm kind of looking at some books that have lost their shape and gone a little bit bendy, full of information about who I am going to become as I'm growing up. Yeah, that resonates as I say that. You just notice the kind of things that you say to yourself as you look and ponder and, you know, gaze softly in. Do your best not to scrutinise what you've done, but keep a very soft, spacious feel about curiosity. This is interesting. What can I see? What am I making these into? And then just trust that whatever you say or suggest is going to be just right for you. It won't be right for anyone else, but it'll be just right for you. So I've done some journaling and I quite enjoyed that. In fact, I really enjoyed it. And one of the things that I most enjoyed was reflecting on this part of me who was mostly at the stables, very confident, doing riding lessons, fairly competent rider myself, and just really acknowledging her, because nobody really acknowledged her. She was a bit of a workhorse, I think. And the other really interesting thing that I found is looking at this one here that I actually thought was, you know, a fairly sturdy book. But as I look at the top end, it looks like the head, because I also saw a figure, the head has sort of blown off or exploded off the top of the neck of this body. It's like, wow, what happened to make that head explode off that neck? How interesting. Thinking like stress levels and frustration. Maybe it wasn't okay for her to express those things. So I'm really enjoying this. So initially I did actually gather up some paint and my palette knife. However, now I've come back again. That's why I do this so slowly. I take my time because, you know, I don't want to rush things. I like to really check in with myself that I'm where I want to be with it. I'm doing what I really want to do with it, my painting. And I guess just then, as I was approaching with the palette knife and the paint, I thought, no, I want my oil pastels, my neon ones. So that's where I've gone, to my neon oil pastels, which I love. And I just kind of feel like I want to fill in those white gaps. I don't want any white, colourless areas. And I believe I know what that's about, as I said it. It's got a lot to do with being left to sort of hang around and wait for adults to make up their mind about what we're doing next. Boredom. Yeah, boredom. Wandering around sort of from room to room, waiting to hear what's happening. Really noticing the feeling I've got as well as I say those things. Not liking it at all. So clearly remembering those sort of moments of, oh my goodness, come on, make a decision, let's do something. Not wanting to sort of hang about. Filling in all those gaps of boredom with lovely neon colours. So as I'm doing this, I'm remembering learning to swim in the river when I was little. We used to go to this great place where the river was shallow in some areas, but really deep pools between the rocks. And in the summer, when it was very, very hot, it was just lovely to swim there. And we'd have a picnic, and we'd stay till late, and we'd get bitten by midges and lost in the woods, and then we'd make our way home. All of us as a family, not just the kids. We wouldn't have been allowed to go on our own. It would have been too dangerous. Yeah, I like to have a lot of nature, a lot of woods, a lot of sea. I like that. I want some more of this green. Now, it may disappear, but at least it's there at the moment. Oh, that's a lovely colour. Those two together. Okay, liking that. So just noticing how I feel now I've done that. I like the colour all over it. I wasn't keen on the white spaces. So I've come back to my paint. I've picked up it's quite an opaque pink, number 45 from Pebeo, and palette knife. I'm going to scrape some more paint on here now. So just trust your gut. Whatever you do, it's going to work out just fine. That's what I say to myself. It's a kind of mantra. Just trust. So as I'm going over that bit that says, I am me, don't question me, I feel a bit funny, like a sort of loss. Oh, I don't want to lose that thing. But I'm reminding myself that it's in me. That is in me. I don't need to see it on my board. I know that that's there. Finding it hard to go over. I was about to go over that young me, but finding that hard to go over her. Maybe she needs to say some things first before it's covered. Just going to give her a voice. Let her speak. Yeah, she says, don't forget me. Don't forget me, I'm here. You can always call upon me. I'm very strong and reliable. Very, very strong and reliable. I'm confident. I'm calm. And I'm very helpful. Okay, so I'm going to say thank you back. I will bear that in mind. Okay. Yeah, that feels better now, so I can let that go. Okay, I want some white. So just tune inwards and notice what you say to yourself. Notice what your impulses are. Notice what you feel you need in that moment. And just trust it. Bring it to your background. Like I wanted white, so I went and got white. Just going to cut this down a bit. These tubes, as they become less and less, you know, the paint becomes less and less, I cut the top off, the end off, and then I scrape into, just put this bit in the bin, scrape into the tube so that I don't lose any paint. There's always lots there at the bottom. Kind of wanted that to be very flexible and bendy. She is very cooperative, that part of me. She will bend herself out of shape to help people if necessary. Just really acknowledging her. Oh, love the markings. These markings are gorgeous. Well, they are to my mind. See kind of a long neck there, and little bunny rabbits here. Just notice the markings that really grab my attention. You might like to notice that, if anything really grabs your attention. I've picked up this teal by Pebeo 358. I'm just going to add some of this. It's quite metallic, this paint. Oh, luscious colours. Felt a need to kind of scrape quite deeply into the layers there. Just go with your impulses. Do your best to trust. As I did that, just for a moment, felt like, oh, I didn't acknowledge that poor woman with the head that sort of was exploding off her neck with frustration. I might write about that in my journal then, in that case. Yeah, I feel like I don't want any space, any bits of board showing through or any white showing through from the board. I don't want any more of that boredom, that wandering around waiting to hear what's happening. Wow, like that. Okay. I'm going to have to let this dry, unfortunately, as much as I'd like to keep going, but the majority of the board is wet with paint. I want some more glitter. I'm just going to put some glitter on before I call it a day. I love the texture of glitter as much as the sparkle. So I've got this purpley pink, just tipping some into the lid. Just trickling. As I'm looking at it this way round, because I'm kind of looking at it that way as I do this, that feels like the Northern Lights, those greens and blues up there, and a mountain range and some snow. So just notice those kind of things that you say to yourself, that you see as you look. Well, if it feels helpful for you. It may not appeal to you to do that, but for me it helps me because they're things that I can, explore. Like, oh, do I have the Northern Lights in me somewhere? Something kind of hard to get hold of, but you can really see. Interesting. So something for me to explore in my journal. I'll just turn this round the other way whilst I'm seeing the Northern Lights. Rather like that. Feels like a turbulent landscape, a very turbulent landscape. Confusion is still there, very noticeable. Feels like snowy mountains with the northern lights shimmering up there in those incredible colours of greens and blues. Yeah, a really turbulent landscape. So you might like to turn your painting around, turn it upside down, turn it around again, and then back to where you began. And as you turn it, you might like to just notice, what can I see? What grabs my attention? What am I projecting onto my painting right now? Ah, yes, I see this, I see that. Snowy mountains, and I've just spotted a head lying down, a profile of a head, a face, looking on sideways. Like there's the eye, and the nose, and the mouth, and the chin, the ear. Who is that lying down up there in the mountains, in the snowy mountain top? So it just interests me what I see in my paintings, and it may not interest you. So just do what feels right for you. I notice there's lots of pinks and lilacs and purples, and it does look very feminine, and yet that's quite deceiving in a way, because I was a real tomboy and wore jeans and t-shirts and riding boots, and didn't really care too much about the feminine side of things. I really enjoyed the fact that I found the northern lights up in the sky, and this ice maiden here makes a lot of sense to me. She, I don't know if you can see that, this is her face here. She's got a sleeping eye and a little nose. Her mouth looks open somehow, as if she's got a, I don't know, sound maybe coming out. Her chin, and then her body up there in the mountains. Yeah, so I'm actually just going to write that. Ice Maiden. I think what I like so much about this particular stage is the solid lines. Like here it's solid, and here it's solid, and this seems a solid line as well. That bit there. Like I've got some solid lines running through there whilst all this other turbulent stuff is going on. Very teenage, lots of emotions and hormones and Yes, I'm going to write on this because it feels like it needs to be named. I'm just trying to decide where I want to write it, because I know it'll disappear, but it still feels like it needs to be done. My turbulent landscape. I am going to move on, which means letting go of this landscape. Yeah, so yeah, I'm just noticing how I feel as I say that. And so yeah, there's a part of me that doesn't really want to let go of this. There's a part of me that could just keep this like this, because it's, as I look at it, it just looks so familiar to me. And yet I need to let go of this to move on to the next part, the next stage, the next layer of my journey. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is wander around my studio, choose colours that feel just right for me, not a knowing thing, but an intuitive gut instinct thing. I'll let my fingers and my body be in charge of the choosing, and bring them back here and move on. So whenever you feel ready, you might like to work in your journal before you move on. You might like to name your landscape or this layer that you've reached, and take a photo of it, and then you might like to choose colours, papers, it could be anything you want. Just go with your gut, bring back whatever you choose, just trust this is going to be right for the next layer. Okay, see you back here very soon.